Today, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, while on his visit to India, may have left many with sleepless nights and a tight knot in their stomach. Because remember, when he came to India, many were hoping that he would rebuke the country, especially about its slow descent into dictatorship. Of course, we've been told for the last 7 years that the country is seeing an ongoing genocide, a complete erosion of democratic values. In fact, it is turned into an autocracy and practically a hellhole. Instead, this is what Boris Johnson actually ended up saying.
Well, as you said, a big point of convergence is democracy, and you invited India to the G7, reaffirming faith in the vitality of her open polity, Prime Minister. But of late, some, including MPs in Britain, have questioned the quality of India's democracy. They've sort of spoken from the pulpit, if you may. What do you make of this?
I don't think it's the job of I mean, parliamentarians say all sorts of things, and you should see what they say about me. So look, in our parliament, I don't think that it's the job of one country to preach to another. India is an incredible country. It's 1.35 billion people, the biggest democracy in the world, and nobody can say that India is not a democracy. It's an extraordinary place, and above all, it is ever more important in a world where the growth of the future is going to be in the Indo-Pacific. That's where it's all happening. That's why the UK is tilting towards the Indo-Pacific. So India's role as a guardian of democratic values in that area is even more important, and that's why we want to develop our friendship and our partnership. Of course we have these conversations, but the advantage of our friendship is we can have them, and we can have them in a friendly and private way. And I just want to say you know, it is very important to realise that India has constitutional protections for communities. They're part of its constitution. India is a very, very different country from autocracies around the world. It is a great, great democracy.
As you can imagine, Boris Johnson's remarks came as quite a downer for those who have basically said that India has turned into a Hindu supremacist autocracy, basically a hellhole. In fact, it is worse when the same person, instead of denouncing the Prime Minister of India, actually calls him his special friend or his khas dost. Where does that leave us?
What is democracy in Britain? Ask Mr. Boris Johnson to talk to me. When he sits with Modi, he can speak any nonsense. What is happening in Britain? Do you know? What is happening in the United States of America? When Trump was president, what happened? Black Lives Matters. You know that campaign. So don't go by what they say. You ask me what my party says, what I say. This is my country. I know my people. I know the situation here. And what is my understanding, you ask. Don't refer to Boris Johnson. Then I will ask him what is happening in Great Britain. Ask him to come and argue with me.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Aparajita Sarungi, MP and National Spokesperson, continues with us. We are also joined by Dr. Swasti Rao, Associate Fellow at IDSA. Chaudhary also continues with us. And my first question is to suspended Congress leader Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, this is quite sad. I mean, the man was supposed to be called divider-in-chief, and now he's become khas dost, and apparently India is a shining example of a democracy.
Well, Padmaja, first and foremost, it is a little absurd to take a certificate on Indian democracy from Boris Johnson. And I'll tell you why. Mr. Boris Johnson is actually being accused in the UK of trying to destroy perhaps the world's most respected media company, the BBC. He, in fact, is working remarkably hard to destroy one of the pillars of founding, shall we say, institutions of a free media. his government, and he in particular, is going after any media that has been critical of him, and especially in Partygate. And don't forget, Mr. Johnson, by the way, has not survived Partygate as yet, where there has been an attempt to subvert a proper investigation. He is not yet owned up to his own responsibility. And with due respect to Mr. Johnson, he's a pretty, in my opinion, discredited person in the UK at this point of time. In fact, UK media is not even sure whether he's probably going to survive his term as a Prime Minister. Coming back to India, let me just give you two examples of
I don't know about UK media, but it definitely seems that Bojo has been cancelled by you, Mr. Jha.
Well,
is this an outcome of him being Modi's khas friend?
Well, let me tell you this. Does anybody in their right senses expect a visiting head of state to come and tell Mr. Modi's government, excuse me, but you have stifled NGOs, you attack writers, you have attacked media, you definitely are brutalizing India's minorities, India's institutions are dead. Look at the way Supreme Court has to tell the government, stop encroaching. Look at the Supreme Court's comment on Lakhimpur Kheri, where you actually had a man who got a bail, and we all know that the prosecution...
Well, there were plenty people imploring Boris Johnson to do the same, but it seems he's been quite a punch to the gut. Let me quickly get in Dr. Swasti Rao as well. Boris Johnson saying India is a democracy doesn't make it one, Dr. Rao.
I think I will share a few things about UK, particularly. You see, this was not Boris Johnson's, I would say, stand until about a month ago. Until about a month ago, Liz Truss had visited India. And Liz Truss's visit back then was looked at a diplomatic push to basically consolidate democracies against the Russian occupation or Russian, basically, military operation in Ukraine. But the way India withheld its ground and the way India made it very, very clear that this kind of a sentiment this kind of a populist sentiment is not going to find support and voice from India, I think made the UK government retreat. And now when Boris Johnson is here, I think the national interests were kept before anything else. And it was, I think, very, very wise on the part of Boris Johnson, because he was representing not himself, but he was representing a country. And in that capacity, it made a lot of sense that global Britain needs to look at Indo-Pacific, and in Indo-Pacific, if they want to empower their stand, they need to empower their partners and allies, and hence they're looking at India. So in many ways, this is a diplomatic victory for India. Why do I say so? Because you see, if you look at democracies, there is an ideal of democracy which we teach and which we study in classes and in books, but then there is a real world out there, and no democracy, even the best in the world, can qualify as a perfect one. We have been finding faults. We have been very readily finding faults with America. We were very quick in that rebuttal. We said that, of course, the status of human rights concerns us. The status of human rights in America concerns us as well. So the larger point that I'm trying to make is that let's keep international politics out of all this narrative building. No democracy in the world is perfect. When we are looking at international politics and these visits by these very important heads of the state, we need to understand where the entire international community wants to move and why are they looking at India, right? So I think that would be my analysis of the same.
Yes. And in addition to talking about India as a democracy, Kamaru Chaudhary, the UK Prime Minister even says it's very important to realize India has constitutional protections for communities. A far cry from what you have been alleging all of this while.
Okay, on 21st of February 2022, there was a debate in the in the United Kingdom Parliament, wherein they were debating about the rights of the minorities, religious minorities in India. I believe you also know that. So, a person, a head of the state coming to India, and he has come in India for his own country's interest. So it's very obvious that he will not be criticizing India on India's soil. But then whatever Boris Johnson has said...
So when you take our debate in UK Parliament as a gospel on what India actually is, then again we should take the word of Boris Johnson that India has got secular constitutional guarantees for all of its communities, and that India is a shining example of what a democracy should be.
No,
If we take every article on any foreign media, every New York Times or every Washington Post or a Wall Street Journal or a Time magazine, then surely Boris Johnson is just as much as a gospel.
Padmaja, can I make a point?
You forgot about the Vendom magazines also, which said that, okay, fine, India has become an electoral autocracy. But then, Padmaja, are you happy with a certificate of a particular Prime Minister from a visiting country giving a certificate of our democracy?
Nobody,
this is a passive phase.
As people living in India, we certainly do not need somebody else to tell us. Exactly like you do not need a Time magazine to tell you whether your Prime Minister is divider-in-chief or chief of the country. But some people seem to be really excited that, oh my God, there is a magazine that is talking about, leave alone Time magazine. Somebody the other day was circulating a clip of some random drunk bouncer at a club in America talking about the Prime Minister's certificate on a vaccine, a Prime Minister's picture on a vaccine certificate. That became a talking point about, look, what a joke India is. Because Modi's picture is on a vaccine certificate.
Prime Minister putting his
then clearly the UK Prime Minister has more
that's a
equity than some drunk bouncer outside a club. It's an apples to apples comparison.
Who has got more equity, who has got more TRP, that video of the drunk man from the UK bar has got. I believe Boris Johnson's statement might have some X likes, but that drunk man has X plus
By the way, you know, a member of parliament of the Congress responded to that drunk bouncer video and said, oh look what a joke India has become because of the Prime Minister's picture on a vaccine certificate.
Yes, of course it has become a joke. We are proud of our heritage, ma'am, but we cannot let somebody give India what it deserves. What you have reduced India to, you do not...
Then you also should not be lapping up certificates of ridiculousness given to India by people either.
You are trying
Dr. Rao, quick response.
One more time, a request to come in.
You are bulldozing the constitution every step of the day.
All right,
ma'am. Try to understand.
All right, I'm completely out of time, but I have to say the only reason I think the conclusion is very simple. Nobody needs a certificate either from Boris Johnson or Donald Trump or Joe Biden. But the point is that when you latch on to every criticism of India by non-entities, then also remember at the end of the day when it comes to people, countries and powers that matter, India knows where it stands and it doesn't need anyone's validation. I'll have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, both ladies, Kamaru and Chaudhary and Sanjay Jha, for joining us. Thanks for watching.